So good evening, everyone. We greet everyone who's joining us online and on our Facebook page. Welcome to our second Midweek Catch-Up. We've got a very exciting guest and topic today. But before I introduce our guest and what we'll be speaking to today, I do just want to say a bit about Midweek Catch-Up, so that at least those who are joining us for the first time get a sense of what it's about. So it's an initiative of House of Testimony. Those who follow us will know that we've got two other segments. So this is our third segment. The first is called Scripture-Based Conversation, which runs every Saturday at 3 p.m. The second one is Sunday Afternoon Talk. It runs every Sunday at 5 p.m. And so Midweek Catch-Up is actually our third segment. It runs every second Wednesday at 7 p.m. So as I say, this is our second one. It's actually a very new segment. So we are learning as we're going. But essentially, it's aimed at providing a platform for people to come and talk about trauma, any kind of trauma. It may be grief, it may be death related, it may be sickness, it may be divorce, it may be even a mugging, for that matter. So it can be any kind of trauma that someone has experienced they may want to share. But more than that, it's about providing a platform for people to share stories of God's grace in their lives and how they've overcome, if they've overcome, or how they're dealing, with that trauma, if they're still dealing with it, because we can't assume that, we overcome these things very quickly. So with that being said, I do want to welcome everyone. You can continue liking our page and sharing all of these conversations. And keep the conversation going even post the actual conversation today. And today we are joined by Sis Phumla Hobe-Yabo. Welcome, Sis Phumla.
Thank you, Kaya. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you so much. The honor and the privilege is ours. Thank you to you and your family for allowing you and releasing you to come and join us today. We are really privileged and honored, and we do look forward to the conversation. So I mean, of course, I want us to get into the conversation about the trauma as it relates to your own experience. But maybe just before that, maybe let's get to know Phumla. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, family, career, anything that you may want us to know about you?
Thank you. I could actually just write a book. But I think, if I can just highlight when I reflect who Phumla is, I'm the daughter, the second born of a late parent. Both of them had passed on at different stages. I am a sister to 4 siblings and a cousin to 13 brothers and sisters. We were raised by my grandmother, in a 2-bedroom household in Cape Town, Guguletu. I must say I was the first one, of first generation to pass matric at home. Going to university, obtaining a qualification up to a postgrad level. And I'm grateful for such an opportunity which God has enabled me to achieve. I am a wife. I am a mother to 3 angels. I am very passionate about education, development, and philanthropy. But most of all, Kaya, I am a daughter of the Most High God.
Hallelujah.
I always feel privileged to call myself as the child of God. I would not have been able to achieve what I have. I would not have occupied a number of spaces that I have been granted to occupy if it was not because of the grace of God. It is not because I have been smart. It is not because of where I come from. It is not because of the circumstances that I've endured or those that I have experienced, but it is because of what God has been able to, to put and to let me understand my purpose. Of course, I am a daughter-in-law. I am a sister-in-law. I grew up with with a desire of wanting to touch lives. But of course, as I was growing up, I didn't know to what extent or the shape and form of it. However, with the experience I've had in my career, I always acknowledge what God has been able to do and the spaces that I've occupied throughout my career. So I have more than 20 years experience in the development space. I've touched many lives. And some of the systemic interventions that we see, particularly in the education space, I've also had an honor and a privilege to influence, I would say, some of those decisions and discussions in terms of what the country has been needing insofar as development is concerned. And that's me. So I'm a Cape Townian, but I relocated to Johannesburg about 11 years ago. So Johannesburg is my home.
Thanks for that. No, thank you for that. I mean, you mentioned, of course, a number of things that that are very important. Daughter of the Most High. We can't forget that. But also, we sometimes are very humble and shy to mention. I mean, I like what you say. You say I've impacted people. We don't. We are very shy about the kind of contributions we make. So I like it when someone acknowledges, that actually I've done my bit in terms of impacting people. I mean, that's very important, So thank you for that intro. I mean, of course, you you mentioned that you daughter of the Most High, a believer, and of course, even as believers, things happen to us. We go through traumatic experiences, and so I want to touch a bit on your only specific I don't even want to call it journey of trauma, but I mean your specific experience with trauma, and just say, tell us a bit about the kind of trauma that you've gone through.
Sure, Kaya. I've had quite a number of them, reflecting on the topic of trauma. When you think about it just alone, you then begin to realize that you have been blessed by making it, and the courage that God may have given you to carry on, the resilience. I mean, I've experienced quite a number of them, but I will also touch on one that I've recently experienced. I've had a traumatic experience of losing both my parents. So that's death. And I lost my mother when I was about 27. And my dad at the age of 37. I was 37 when I lost my father. But the divorce, of my parents, the divorce of their marriage was a trauma. I was 6 years old when they divorced. Poverty was a traumatic experience on its own. And the fact that you are not living with both of your parents and your grandmother has to make ends meet, As I'm saying, I think I've also, I take it as a privilege that I've been able to make it up to this far. And the fact that I've also, grown to be resilient and to understand that trauma is not just, it's a journey. It's not a once-off kind of an experience. And if you don't acknowledge it and find ways and means of living with it, other traumatic experiences will come and will find you when you are at your weakest. So it's important to really acknowledge and live with the trauma find help, talk about it, and move on. It's not the end of the world. I guess it also differs from one person to the other. But Kaya, just to share with you my recent traumatic experience. It was a robbery at home on the 11th of June. It feels like it happened yesterday. It was 11th of June 2023, around 3 o'clock. I had just fetched my kids from school. My husband was at work. So I came to my house as usual, opening the gate, closing the gate, opening the garage, getting in the garage, closing the garage, coming into the house, and just going to my bedroom, making few calls with family. And I then went to the kitchen. I realized I just needed something to eat. It was in the afternoon. So I go to the kitchen. My kids wanted to use my back office as they were busy preparing for their exams. In fact, it was June 6th. It was in the middle of exams, the media exams. So I go to the kitchen. Then I realized that the kitchen door wasn't properly closed, and the burglar, which we, during the day, I mean, this is Johannesburg for you. We are always vigilant. I would say we always, lock the burglar, even if you are inside the house. I realized the burglar wasn't locked. But I thought, but the kids are there at the back, and, our home is safe. I just closed the door without locking the burglar. And then I warmed my plate of food. And as I was facing the microwave side, when you warm something and then you are facing the microwave, within a minute, your food will be ready. As I'm about to take off the plate, I could see that the door was opening. The kitchen door was opening. In my mind, I thought maybe it's the kids. But no, it was not the kids. A man holding a gun, and he was already pointing the gun at me. And for a moment, I thought, am I dreaming? What is happening? And this guy said to me, you keep quiet or I will shoot you. And I looked around. The immediate response was that, Phumla, cooperate. The worst happened, but just cooperate. And I said to him, take whatever that you want. Please just don't hurt me. Don't hurt us. And the guy said, who else is in the house? And I said, my kids are in the house. And he said, if you scream, I will shoot you. And the gun was getting close to my head, And as he was speaking, he was just pointing the gun at me. And my 7-year-old son was in the lounge as I am busy in the kitchen. He was in the lounge, and he could sense there was a bit of commotion, but there was no noise, coming from the kitchen, but he could sense something was happening. So he left the lounge and he said, Mama, are you okay? He went to the kitchen, and this guy who's holding the gun moved the direction of the gun from my head, and then he pointed my 7-year-old son. And you can imagine the reaction as well. And he said to him, if you scream, I will shoot you. And I said to him, please rather point the gun at me, not to my son. And the guy said, where are the other kids? I said, they are in the room. So he then, directed us to go to the room. So my son then had to walk in front, and I had to walk, behind him. And this guy was behind me, pointing the gun. And as that was happening, Kaya, all I could do was cooperate, but also calling on God to intervene. All I needed was a divine intervention at that moment. And a whole lot of other things were just, happening in my head, thinking, not long ago, there was a family who was involved in a shooting in Johannesburg. And, beginning to think about what was reported on in the news.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, so this is really happening in my house.
Yeah. It's a shock.
What more can I do? It was a shock. It was a shock. And this guy then asked, where are the other kids? I said, my daughter was napping in the room. So I then opened the room. As I opened the room, my 19-year-old daughter said, Mama, what is happening? I said, Nana, just cooperate. We are being robbed.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was sleeping, and she immediately woke up, and the guy asked, where are your phones? I said, my phone is in my room, in my main bedroom, and my daughter was holding her phone, and this guy wanted the phone. I said, Nana, just give them the phone. And as we were doing that, the other one entered the room. So now I did not know how many people were in the house. I realized, it was bigger than what we could have also imagined. They stayed in the house, Kaya, for something like an hour or so.
Yeah.
Searching all the rooms. And this one said we must sit in the room and not move. And we did as he had instructed. All I was doing as I was keeping quiet was praying. So they took money, which was in my purse. They took the laptops. They took all the devices. They took everything that they could take. But funny enough, I was still able to negotiate with them to say, can you please just, give us our SIM cards?
Take the phones.
And they were able to give us those SIM cards. You can take the phone, just give us the SIM card. All our information is sitting on these small devices that we call SIM cards. Yeah. Fortunately enough, they did not take my ID. They did not take my cards. So all they were saying was, we want money. I said, I don't have money. But the money that was in my purse was, I think, about 900 rands. And they took money. And I still say, thanks God, I had the cash. I don't often carry cash, but that particular day, I had the cash. And fortunately, they were able to take that, and maybe that gave them whatever immediate needs that they wanted to attend to, to be able to get that. So using that cash, they took it, all of it. And I still do not know how they got into the house and how they left the house in terms of the point of entry. I still do not know. So during that 1 hour, they were searching. You feel like someone is scraping your dignity in your own home.
Your own house.
And in your own house, you are instructed to sit in the couch. Yes, you are sitting in your own bedroom, sitting in the couch, and the guns. Now, these guys, the two guys were sitting, both of them pointing us with a gun. One guy is pointing the children with the gun, and one gun is pointing at me. And as we were sitting, I'm thinking, these guys were not even, they did not hide their faces. I could see them. I was talking to them. They were not hiding their faces. So what was happening in my mind, I was thinking, okay, now that they got everything that they wanted, they are just gonna kill us. Because they have nothing to lose. We've seen them. We may be able to identify them.
Actually, you're actually a danger to them now.
It's a danger.
Yeah. In fact, I was going to
Precisely.
ask you.
Precisely.
Sorry to jump in there. In fact, I was going to ask you as you were speaking. You know, when you mentioned, you know, the shock of them coming in and you know, feeling that this invasion of your privacy, and at the point where they are pointing their guns and I'm not in this one room where you know your 19-year-old was in, and so I wanted to actually ask you, but I wanted to let you finish that. Now that you mentioned it, you know that did you feel at any point with these guns being pointed that actually this is the end, you know, these guys now, like you've just said, it looks like you know they had nothing to lose really now that they've showed their faces. So did you feel at any point there that actually it could be the end of all of us as a family?
That was the thought in my mind, and apparently that was the thought in my kids' minds as well, because we spoke about it when we had to undergo counseling. And the first thing that my daughter said was that I thought that was the end of it, Mama. And she actually, because she, as she was napping, it was during the day, but she was on her PJs. And these men, are invading our privacy, unexpectedly so. So she had to quickly take a blanket and cover herself, right? I mean, there's so many things that are happening in your mind.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that whatever that was occupying my mind at that present moment, little did I know that the same thoughts were also occupying her mind.
Yeah.
That these guys could actually, sexually assault me.
Yeah.
I could be raped. My mother would be killed in front of me. My brothers will be killed in front of me.
Yeah.
So I'd rather, when that happens, let me rather cover myself with a blanket. I do not want to see it when it happens. And as we were sitting, I was looking at my kids, looking at these guns, looking at these guys, and I'm thinking, it's the end of it. But Lord, let my life not end in this way.
This way. Sure. Yeah, that's God's grace, eh? I mean, you did mention that you know, you were praying for divine intervention. I mean, it's very rare, you know, in most cases, we read, as you say, we read about what happens. You know, these guys come in, they rob, as you say, they sexually harass women in the house and they kill them, you know. So the fact that you are even able to speak about it really does talk to God's grace at that particular moment. Yes, of course, the trauma is there. And of course, it will live with you, as you were saying, you know. But it's amazing what God has done for all of you, you know, despite you know everything that has happened. And in fact, I was going to ask you, were mentioning you about your daughter and the kids and what you were thinking, what she was thinking, and I want you know, and I'm thinking, what is the impact? I mean, I hear you doing, you're mentioning that you know part of it is of the healing process is therapy, and I want you know how has this, I mean, your husband was not there. No, of course, I'm sure that makes him angry. I'm sure it's traumatic to him in his own way as well, you know, although he was not there physically, but it must be, you know, and I'm almost trying to understand what has been that kind of, how has this impacted, you know, your whole family, whether emotionally, psychologically, and even spiritually for that matter.
Yeah, we were severely wounded, emotionally so.
Yeah.
We are still grateful of the fact that we were not physically harmed. None of that happened. The fact that we're able to cooperate at that present moment, and we gave in whatever that they wanted, we cooperated with them. I think that was also something that we took as a lesson. Of course, you only get to realize that at a later stage. But we were emotionally damaged. I can put it that way.
Yeah.
you can imagine the impact it had on my husband. He's at work. He gets a message from the community group that number 19 Denton, the house is involved in a robbery. Whatever the message was, that went on that community group. And when he saw the message, he immediately, he saw the message, he looked at the message. He's in Pretoria. We are in Johannesburg. It's the message, and for a moment, he could not think that number 19 is his house. It could not be happening in his house. That was the first reaction. He saw number 19, there's robbery in house number 19, Denton. There's only one number 19, in Denton. So he says, for a moment, I guess it was also a shock for him. He did not think it could happen, or he may have also thought of the worst that could happen. The wife is at home with the kids. There's robbery. It's during the day, and it's armed robbery. Then the neighbor immediately called him, and he said, there's robbery at your house. You need to come urgently. He says he could not, for a second, he could not even comprehend what the neighbor was saying to him. He then thought, yes, I saw there was robbery, but I did not think it was my house. The journey from work in Pretoria to Johannesburg, he wanted to fly. When he got here, the house was already full with securities. I remember that day I had scheduled to go to church at 5:30. There was a leaders meeting. My phone is gone. I had to search in my bag. You always get those notices at church, and those notices will have someone's, one of the leaders' contact detail. So I had to take the phone from the security guy, and I said I needed to call someone, and I had to call the leader, and I said, please be advised and also inform my reverend that this is what has happened. So I can't even describe the impact, Kaya, that it had in my life, in the children's life, but here we are.
It must be. It must be very. Of course, this is an experience that's unique to you, and I can only empathize, and but I do want to thank you for sharing and taking the time to talk about it, and but what gives me comfort for us is how you are putting God at the center of all of this. That you pray for intervention. And you are, when you look back, you are really grateful that you were not physically harassed by these guys or anything like that, or your children. So it is of course, as I say, can't take away the pain, but I do want to, in the last 5 minutes, ask this question, because part of this conversation really is about also for the other person that's listening, that your story can help someone else, who may be listening, to say what any one or two lessons or anything that you can share, even a word of advice, if I put it like that. You mentioned something which really struck me about cooperation, for example, with and that's something that when you were talking, that really hit, kind of like jumped at me, that probably part of what helped us the cooperation. I don't know, but are there any one or two things that you want to share about someone who may find themselves in such a situation, or even how then to deal and cope with this kind of trauma afterwards? Just in a few minutes, yeah.
Kaya, no, thank you. And you're quite right. One of the things that always jumps out in that particular experience for me was the ability to cooperate. of course, you do not know what you are faced with. You do not know what is happening at the, at the perpetrator's minds.
Yes.
We hear from the news day in, day out, the number of people who get to be killed in their own homes, the hijacks, this and that. Now, when it happens to you, it's a shock. It's a shock, and with that shock, you either fight or fly.
Right.
We hear that quite a lot.
Yeah.
But when you are in the moment, you also do not know what is the best way to do, right? You could either fight these guys, and we are thinking now that the other one has left the room, maybe you could quickly, fight with this one. Maybe God, the very same God that you are praying, might give you strength.
Yeah.
But there is something that also, that stayed with me, that there's a scripture that says, and a song that says, "Be still and know that I am God." Right? In the midst of confusion,
Yeah. Yeah. Still.
God is there. In the midst of a traumatic experience, and in the midst of a traumatic event, God is there. He did not leave us or forsake us, as difficult as it was.
Yeah.
As we wanted to surrender that, okay, God, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
If you allow it, it's okay.
It's your will.
But we remained still. We cooperated. We still trusted him, even in the 11th hour of our death, because we did not know whether we would make it or not make it, because they still wanted more, and we did not have any more to give, right? And I remember one of them asking, "When is your husband coming back?" And I said, "He'll be back at 6. Imagine now time is around 4 o'clock. And he said, "Okay, it's fine. We will wait for him." And I said, "It's fine. It's okay. If you want to wait for him, it's okay." So the advice that I would give, Kaya, is we may give as many advices, but when you are faced with such traumatic experience, you listen to that inner voice. Cooperate as much as you can. Those are the tips that we often get, even during therapy. That's what we're told. In as much as you also need to learn certain skills that would help you to defend yourself. Those skills may not necessarily help you because you are faced with 2 armed men. What do you have? The trust and belief that God is with you.
Inspired.
And he fought. He allowed it. He helped us to be, to be more vigilant. To put more stringent measures in place just to enhance our security. But we remain grateful for the second chance in life. It could have been worse. We could have been killed.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. We could go on, but we have to, because of time, close it here. I do want to really, I think you really just embodied everything this show is about. That we express or talk about our traumatic experiences, but we also put God at the center of everything that is happening, and you highlighted how you just outlined the importance of being still and trusting God even in that moment and listening to the inner voice. For me, that if there's anything I'm going to take away personally, it's that you have to trust God even in the difficult situations like this, and even in the traumatic experience. And so, as I say, you've embodied exactly what this show is about. That yes, we want to talk about trauma, but we also want to unearth and highlight for people, that the importance of trusting and relying. The Bible says, lean not in your own understanding, but lean on God,
Oh, yeah.
So thank you so much for embodying that. I do also want to say, as we close, thank you for coming to, our House of Testimony, Midweek Catch-Up, and sharing your experience. And it's not easy, so I do really appreciate, and I want to thank your husband, your children, for allowing you, because this is a shared trauma, really. It's not just you, so thank you for that. And I do wish you all the best. We'll keep you in our prayers, your family, and and then may God give you strength to continue, because it's still going to be a process to go through, all of this and moving forward from all of the pain. So thank you so much for making the time, and I do wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, Kaya. And thank you so much for creating this opportunity. Talking about it also helps.
It's
part of the healing as well.
No, the honor,
Yeah,
the privilege is all ours.
No, thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you. Let us close it here.
Keep
So I will just say to the viewers and the listenership that we close it here. Listen to the conversation, like it, share it, because we want it to impact people. Drop us messages if you have any messages. Share your own experience as well. I think what Phumla has done is to also help others who may have other experiences of trauma to come forward and share. So hopefully we get more stories, and we are very much open to people approaching us and sharing their stories, because it's not for our own benefit, but for the benefit of society, for the benefit of the kingdom of God, really. And so at this point, I do want to close it and say thank you very much, and may God bless you. Have a good week further.